Hello everyone, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyolier and today we are here to discuss the Gaza Peace Summit which is taking place in Egypt at the moment. Our Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi was also invited to be a part of this, but he could not attend due to this being a last-minute invitation. But we have sent a special envoy, Mr. Kirti Vardhan Singh, to be present as our representative. So today let us understand what the Peace Summit is and what can we expect out of this. So the Gaza Peace Summit is taking place at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. This is Sharm el-Sheikh. It's a part of the Sinai Peninsula. This is where the Peace Summit is happening. And this Peace Summit is being co-chaired by the US President Mr. Donald Trump and the Egyptian President Mr. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And why is this summit so important? Because it aims at resolving the long-standing dispute between Israel and Hamas. There has been a history of violent clashes and conflicts between Israel and Hamas, and the people of Palestine have suffered the most. That is why US came up with a peace plan, the Gaza Peace Plan, and all these things are being discussed at this peace summit so that the conflict between Israel and Hamas can be resolved and peace can be restored in the region. So before we understand the nuances of the peace plan, let's first see where the Gaza Strip is and a brief history of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. So this area that you see on screen is the Gaza Strip. This narrow piece of land is the Gaza Strip. Now this is narrow, but it is very densely populated. It borders Egypt and Israel. And there has been a history of violent clashes between Israel and Hamas. Now, in order to understand this, we can divide the entire timeline into three different time periods. First, we have the Gaza administration pre-Hamas. Because Hamas came in 1987. Things were happening even before that. Conflicts were happening even before that. So, we have pre-Hamas. Then we have the rise of Hamas. And then we have the Israel-Hamas conflicts. So there have been important events in all these time periods. Let's talk about all of them. First time period is the pre-Hamas time period. And for this, we'll have to go back to 1948, where we see an Arab-Israeli war. So there was a war between Arab nations and Israel, and Arab nations basically won. So what did they do? They took control of the Gaza Strip. Egypt took control of this entire Gaza Strip in 1948. Then we come to 1967, where we see the Six-Day War. And here, Israel was victorious. So Israel won the Six-Day War, and then what did Israel do? This took over Gaza Strip from Egypt as well as the West Bank from Jordan. So Gaza Strip was taken from Egypt and the West Bank was taken from Jordan in 1967 by Israel. Now, if you notice, till this time, Palestine was not under the control of Palestinians. There was no self-rule. Earlier, it was under Arab occupation, then it was under Israeli occupation, but never under the self-rule of Palestinians. That is when, in 1993, Oslo Accords were signed. So, Oslo Accords aimed at bringing about Palestinian self-rule in the region. So they were signed between Israel and PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. This organization claims itself to be the sole representative of Palestinians worldwide. So PLO and Israel, they signed the Oslo Accords to bring about Palestinian self-rule in the region in the form of Palestinian Authority. PA. So this Palestinian Authority was to deal with the administration of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and West Bank only, whereas PLO deals with Palestinians worldwide. So Palestinian Authority took control of the Gaza Strip, and this was being governed by a political faction, Fattah. So this came under Fattah. Then we have the second part, where Hamas was formed in 1987. Then we saw the rise of Hamas. Hamas basically was an Islamist, is basically an Islamist and anti-Israelist group. So that is why there has been a history of conflict between Israel and Hamas. In 2006, elections were conducted in Palestine and Hamas won. So till now, Gaza Strip was being controlled by Palestinian Authority. Now in 2006, Palestinian Authority had to withdraw. It was displaced and this came under the rule of Hamas. Gaza Strip came under the rule of Hamas. Now there has been a history of conflicts since 2006 and then we enter the third era, which is the Israel-Hamas conflict. There have been many conflicts, but the one that was the most violent, because of which we had to come up with a peace plan, was the October 7, 2023 attack. So this is the date when Hamas attacked Israel, and after that Israel has been responding very violently. There has been a history of clashes between Hamas and Israel and the people have suffered the most. The civilians of this area have suffered the most. That is why this peace plan becomes very important. So this was a brief history of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Now let's talk about the Gaza Peace Plan. So this peace plan has been mediated by the United States and this basically is a 20-point agenda. It talks about 20 different things. First is the Gaza de-radicalization, which means it wants to transform Gaza into a terror-free zone. Next, rebuilding Gaza, because if you notice the before and after images of Gaza, before the war and after the war, you will see a stark difference. This is the before and this is the after of Gaza of the war. So there's a devastation that has happened. There's this very serious devastation of infrastructure that has happened. Humanitarian loss, of course, has happened. So there has been huge devastation, catastrophic devastation, which we see in the war. So there is a plan to rebuild Gaza also. Then we want an immediate ceasefire where the Israeli forces must withdraw. And in the first phase of the withdrawal, they have actually reached here. This blue line is the initial withdrawal where the Israeli forces have withdrawn up till this line. Then we talk about hostage release. So as I speak, hostages are being released from Israel also. The Gazan hostages are being released. Prisoners are to be released. There is amnesty for Hamas members also, which means all the Hamas members who will disarm themselves, they can also be pardoned. Immediate humanitarian aid will be provided to deal with all the devastation that has happened. And who will provide this aid? All the third parties. Neutral aid delivery, that is going to happen via UN or Red Cross. So this humanitarian aid will be delivered neutrally. Then there will be a transitional government. So what happened before 2006? Before 2006, Palestinian Authority was taking control of Gaza. That was under Gaza's administration was under Palestinian Authority. Now Palestinian Authority is no longer in the picture. Now till the return of Palestinian Authority, there will be a transitional interim governance, which is known as a technocratic Palestinian Committee. There will be a technocratic Palestinian committee which will have Palestinians, of course, and then it will be chaired by Donald Trump. It will be chaired by Donald Trump and it will also have Tony Blair as one of its members. So there will be a technocratic Palestinian committee till the time Palestinian Authority is ready to return into picture. Then there is also an economic development plan to provide economic opportunities to the people living in Gaza. Next, a special economic zone will also be conducted. There will also be freedom of movement. Nobody's movement will be restricted. People can willingly leave Gaza and they can also come back if they feel so. So freedom of movement will be there. Hamas exclusion and demilitarization has to happen. Regional security guarantees have to take place so that the region it is terror free and the people, the neighboring countries, they can also exist peacefully. So regional security will happen. International stabilization force will be there. Israeli forces have to withdraw. First phase of withdrawal has already happened. Aid in uncontested areas will be provided. So if there's any contention between Hamas and Israel, that will also be dealt with separately. But all the uncontested areas will be provided with humanitarian relief. Interfaith dialogue will happen. Path to Palestinian statehood can also happen once PA returns. And then US mediated political dialogue will happen to establish long-term peace in the region, long-term peace and stability in the region. So if all these things that are being visualized, if they can actually come into picture, then a lot of humanitarian crisis will be resolved here. The people of Palestine, the people of Gaza are basically going to benefit the most out of this thing. So let's hope that the things that we are anticipating, they can actually transform into reality, and humanitarian loss can now stop. So that was all for today's video. Now let us practice a question for prelims. Under the 2025 Gaza Peace Plan, which of the following is correct? A. Israel has completely withdrawn from Gaza and no longer controls any border crossings. B. Gaza will temporarily be governed by a technocratic Palestinian committee under international supervision. C. Hamas will continue to control Gaza's administration and military infrastructure. D. No international aid is allowed into Gaza until a permanent peace deal is signed. Choose the correct statement. Please provide your answers in the comments section, and we will meet in a new video.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.